Thanks for watching this video. I hope you find it useful. And if you do, please consider subscribing to my channel for more useful content.
I want you to assume the role of the CTO of an organization, interviewing me for a data architect role in your organization. Assuming that you have gone through my profile and what you have found is that I have experience with as a data architect, I have around 6 years of experience on the Azure platform, especially with Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse, basically the Azure ecosystem, and I have a working knowledge of other platforms like Snowflake, Databricks, and AWS as well. I want you to conduct my interview. I want you to ask me 5 technical questions around the data architect position, for the data architect position, that is. You will ask me a question, you will wait for my response, you will wait for me to finish, and after a slight pause, you will ask the next question. Once you are done asking me the 5 questions, you will then stop the interview and tell me that we are done with the interview, and you will give my feedback to the HR and they will get back to me with the feedback. Once that's done, you will then evaluate my responses and give me feedback on how my interview went. And it will also help me figure out areas of strength, areas of weakness, and areas of improvement for me. So, can you help me do that?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help with that. Let's get started with the interview. Question 1. Can you describe how you would design a data pipeline using Azure Data Factory for ingesting data from multiple sources, and how you would ensure data quality and consistency throughout the process?
To ingest data from multiple sources, I would say that the best option would be to use Azure Data Factory. What we can do is we can use the copy activity to copy the data from the various sources into a blob storage, or these days it would be appropriate to go for ADLS Gen 2 because it also supports the Delta format. This way, I am aware of what are the Delta rows that I need to load. Once the copy activity is completed, I can then trigger another data flow, a mapping data flow that would then do the transformations for me and ingest the data into any target system. Could be a database, could be a blob storage, and so on. So I would use Azure Data Factory, and then if I need to do any complex transformations or implement some complex logic, I could use Azure Synapse to get the data from the target where I've loaded the data from Azure Data Factory and then do subsequent processing. And in terms of data quality, we can use Purview to set up quality controls. Purview has automated capabilities to scan the quality of the data and also give me insights. Plus, I can also set up some rules to scan the data quality and give me insights into the quality of the data. So that is how I would go about this.
Great approach. Using Azure Data Factory for data ingestion and ADLS Gen 2 for storage, followed by transformations in Synapse, is a solid design. Incorporating Purview for data quality is a great addition. Now, moving on to the next question. Question 2. How would you design a scalable data architecture on Azure to handle a large volume of data, ensuring high availability and low latency?
For that, of course, like I said, Azure Data Factory is a very highly scalable solution. You can select the kind of compute instances that you want for low frequency loads or batch loads, or whatever the case may be. We can use serverless SQL pools to process the data. And if the data load is heavy, if you have to load massive volumes of data, I would say that we can use mapping data flows in parallel, processing the data into Parquet format, which is of course a compressed format. And once the data is ingested in the Parquet format, we can do subsequent processing, creating parallelized pipelines. We can of course use we can use Synapse. We can create Spark pools, and we can do the processing using Spark to take care of the scale. And in terms of resiliency, we can make sure that our solution is deployed across multiple availability zones. It has a redundancy built in, and we also take data backups regularly in any of the target stores where we are storing the data. And in terms of traceability, we can of course turn on logging and monitoring We can create some audit tables to check the status of the load on any given day, or maybe historical loads. And of course, Purview also would store the lineage of the data load as well as any issues with it. So in terms of observability and traceability, I would say that with the combination of Azure Monitor and Azure Purview, we take care of any issues that could arise within the platform.
That's a comprehensive answer, covering scalability, resilience, and traceability effectively. Let's move on to the next question. Question 3. Can you explain how you would implement a data governance strategy on Azure, ensuring compliance and security of the data?
So it's fairly obvious that we can, of course, go for Purview, which is an integrated solution within the Azure ecosystem. With Purview, you can turn on the scans. You can register your data sources with Purview. You can allow it to scan and create automated catalogs. With Purview, you can create data domains, and within the data domains, you can set up scanning rules to scan for sensitive data. You can classify the data, you could catalog the data within Purview. I think that Purview gives several controls to take care of all of your governance requirements. And in terms of compliance as well, Purview already has automated templates for PCI DSS or HIPAA or any sort of compliance that you are looking to implement across the data sets in your organization. So I would say that Purview is a pretty fairly comprehensive solution. But even if we don't go for Purview, we can use some other solution like Colibra or Big ID.
Excellent. Leveraging Azure Purview for data governance, compliance, and classification is a strong strategy, and it's good to mention alternatives like Calibra and Big ID. Moving on. Question 4. How would you approach optimizing a data pipeline that is experiencing performance bottlenecks in Azure Synapse?
The first thing to note is we have to, of course, go to the logs. We have to check the metrics around uh, where we are struggling in terms of loading the data. So it could be that uh, the memory is not enough, or maybe the CPU usage is too high. We can then vertically scale our instances to ensure that it is able to handle the load. Apart from that, I would also check that if I have written some Spark pipelines in Spark, or if I have written some stored procedures, maybe I could create some optimizations there, create appropriate indexes, or maybe change the format of the file that we are loading. Um, those are the things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Excellent approach. Addressing bottlenecks through vertical scaling, optimizing queries, and checking resource utilization are all vital steps. Let's go to the final question. Question 5. How do you ensure data consistency and integrity when designing ETL processes across different environments in Azure?
You can ensure data consistency by adding imputation checks within the data, making sure that you are also taking care of reconciliation. So once the data load is completed, we want to ensure that whatever we loaded from the source systems has been loaded correctly. We can use several strategies for reconciliation that I wouldn't want to get into right now in the interest of time. And apart from that, we can also add quality checks within our Spark pipelines or stored procedures that we are implementing, just to make sure that certain data points that are expected from the source of origin, they are appearing in the data, and we are not missing out on any information. So in this way, we can ensure consistency.
Great. Incorporating imputation checks, reconciliation, and quality checks are excellent ways to ensure data consistency and integrity. That concludes the interview. Thank you for your responses. We'll review your answers and provide feedback through HR. Now, for some feedback, you provided detailed and thoughtful answers, showcasing a strong grasp of Azure's ecosystem. You demonstrated practical knowledge and a problem-solving mindset. To further enhance your responses, you might consider diving a bit deeper into specific examples or best practices you've implemented in your past experiences. Overall, great job.
However, there were some questions which I have not answered completely. So, for example, when you talked about data consistency, what did I miss?
Your response was strong, but you could enhance it by mentioning a few additional points. For data consistency and integrity, you might also discuss 1. Transactional guarantees, ensuring that ETL processes have transactional integrity so that partial updates do not occur, maintaining data accuracy across different environments. 2. Data validation rules, implementing strong data validation rules and checks during the ETL process to prevent corrupt or inconsistent data from being loaded. 3. Automated testing and monitoring, setting up automated tests and continuous monitoring to catch and address any inconsistencies early. Overall, you provided a solid response, and these additional elements could further strengthen it.
What about the question around governance? When you asked me how I would set up governance on the platform, what did I miss over there?
Your answer was strong, but you could also mention security controls, implementing role-based access control, RBAC, and data masking to ensure sensitive data is protected and only accessible by authorized users. 2. Auditing and compliance monitoring, setting up comprehensive auditing and logging to keep track of who accessed what data and when, ensuring compliance with regulations. 3. Data lineage, tracking data lineage to understand the data's lifecycle, which is crucial for governance and troubleshooting. These elements further bolster a governance strategy on Azure.
What else did I miss in the questions that you asked?
Overall, you provided comprehensive answers. For the questions on scalable data architecture, you could have also mentioned the use of Azure Event Hubs or Azure Stream Analytics for real-time data ingestion and processing. 2. Performance optimization. You could have elaborated on partitioning strategies, caching mechanisms, or the importance of choosing the right data storage format, like Parquet, for optimizing performance. 3. Data governance. You have touched on setting up data retention policies to manage data lifecycle and ensure compliance. Your responses were strong overall, and these additional points could provide even more depth to your answers.
That makes sense. Thanks for the feedback and thanks for helping me out with this interview preparation.